And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my own thoughts and theories on why I believe that Michael Steele and Jack Wholmes may well be innocent of the murders of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe.
It was a crime which pushed everything else off the front pages. 3 men, all known criminals, found shot dead in the Essex countryside. It was a cold-blooded, professional killing. The victims had many enemies, but which one wanted them executed?
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. So in this video, we're not going to be talking about the motive for the murders of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe. We're really going to strip things back and look at the planning process. The planning, the lure of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe to the bottom of Workhouse Lane, this incoming consignment as put forth by Michael Steele as really the carrot under the donkey's nose, if you will, to lure Tucker, Tate and Rolfe to their ultimate demise. Does this actually make any sense whatsoever? Let's take a look at it. Now, it all starts basically, doesn't it, with this trip to Holland. The consignment of cannabis is turned out to be dud. Everyone's out a lot of money. People have lost face. There's this animosity, if you will, between Pat Tate and Michael Steele. But there's also, as I say, this trip to Holland where people are repaid. Pat Tate has his money back. But during this trip, by all accounts, Michael Steele also approaches Pat Tate with the news of this upcoming deal. Now, this deal involved a large amount of cocaine, which was supposedly going to be flown in, with Michael Steele in the company of another member of a London firm. Michael Steele then puts the idea to Pat Tate, well look, why don't you and Tucker turn up armed, stick some guns in our faces, take the gear away, and then we'll split it 3 ways. We'll make it look like some sort of legitimate armed robbery as such, and we'll basically split the proceeds. So in this video, as I say, I'm here to challenge that idea. Firstly, what we need to do is put ourselves in the role of Michael Steele for one moment. And what potential pitfalls could such a plan actually have? Now, my first issue with this plan comes in the form of the submachine gun, the weapon that was borrowed from Mad Mick Bowman, who coincidentally happened to be also involved in the whole cocaine deal. It was going to be his role, according to the statement of Donna Jaggers, to actually take this cocaine away once it had landed, cut it up and then return it. So this individual wasn't just concerned in supplying a firearm on hire as such, he was actually involved in the cocaine plot to some degree. But what is the issue with that? Well, naturally, once Steele returns to the UK, there's further talk about this deal that's upcoming. They're planning it, they're discussing what they're going to do. Steele is going to be aware that they've actually borrowed a submachine gun from someone. And what's going to happen when they borrow that submachine gun is that Tucker, Tate and Rolfe are going to tell them the reason why they're borrowing it, aren't they? They're loudmouth, they're cocky individuals, full of ego. So I would say it's definitely more likely than not that at least one of these individuals, in terms of Tucker or Tate, would have said to Steele at some stage, look, we've got hold of a submachine gun, we've got the weaponry, we're all set at our end. When you're going over to Holland to get the gear, we're all set, basically. And surely at that point, Michael Steele's going to think to himself, well, okay, they've outsourced this submachine gun. Who did they get that from? Did they tell them exactly what they're going to do with it? Are they aware of who they're going to meet that night on December the 6th? I mean, talk about a bloody carrot under the nose. He's got like 12 dozen carrots under the nose here. He's made up this big story, supposedly, about this large cocaine shipment, and that's going to attract outside attention. That's going to attract hangers-on. That's going to attract Michael Bowman then getting involved with the cocaine deal, the cutting up of the cocaine. Having such a massive plan and drawing such attention to it, not just from Tucker, Tate and Rolfe, but other potential outside individuals, such as Michael Bowman, is not exactly what you want when you're committing triple murder. So that's the first potential issue. We now have an outside individual who may or may not be known by Michael Steele in Michael Bowman. So we've now got an extra individual involved in this plot, in this deal. Then we move on to the next individual, John McCarthy. This was the individual who was actually going to pay nearly £1 million for the entire load. That was written again in a statement given by Donna Jaggers. John McCarthy, this individual who paid for Tate's funeral, he was close to Sarah Saunders, he was going to stump up the cash to pay for this cocaine. But this individual, who I found out recently, also knew Michael Steele. So the man, John McCarthy, who really was actually quite an integral part of this entire deal, was actually known to Michael Steele. Now, I found that out recently, as I say, in the summing up in court document, because when Michael Steele started receiving the phone calls from the undercover officers posing as members of the IRA, Michael Steele phones up John McCarthy. So now we have two individuals. We've got Michael Bowman who's involved. We've now got John McCarthy, an individual who is actually known personally to Michael Steele. And when I say that Michael Steele knew of John McCarthy, I don't mean that he had just heard his name in passing or he had some incidental contact with him before the murders took place. Michael Steele actually phoned John McCarthy. It's on the phone records as told in the summing up in court. He actually phoned John McCarthy after the murders. So it's clearly some individual that he knew personally. So now we have Michael Bowman supplying the firearm. We have John McCarthy, the person who's going to buy this product once it arrives over in the UK. Once Tucker, Tate and Rolfe have stolen it, John McCarthy is going to be the purchaser of those drugs. Do we seriously believe that at no point in time has that got back to Michael Steele? That Tate hasn't said, okay, we've got a gun, we've got it from Mad Mick Bowman, or wherever. Even if he said we've got a gun from someone, that's still going to trigger something in your mind if you're Michael Steele and think, actually, have they said where they're going then? Do they know who they're going to meet that night? It would make you a little bit paranoid. And are they really not going to mention that they've got a buyer for the product when it arrives over here? Is Tate not going to say, oh, you know John McCarthy? Yeah, that guy you met earlier this year? Yeah, he's going to pay us £1 million for it. I mean, these are the exact sort of conversations that I picture Tucker, Tate and Michael Steele having, especially as they're so excited about this upcoming deal. You've got Tate telling, Barry Dorman, yeah, don't worry about the car, I've got loads of money coming. They're telling everybody. This isn't some low-level deal that's taking place. They're shouting their mouths off to everybody. And what's another issue with this? This big carrot, the giant golden carrot, if you will, the £1 million deal. Who do you think that Tucker, Tate and Rolfe are going to tell about all of this money that they're going to be coming into? They're going to be telling their girlfriends, aren't they? They're going to be telling those closest to them. And what are they going to say on December the 6th when they pop out shortly before the meal? Oh yeah, we're going to meet Michael Steele. I mean, are we seriously supposed to believe that that is how you would set up a triple murder? And changing the subject just briefly, we then have the issue regarding the gun. We had Darren Nichols saying that Michael Steele told him shortly after the trip to Holland that he needed a gun. Darren Nichols actually states in the book Blogs 19 the following, and bear in mind this is when a traveller is knocking on his door trying to sell him a gun after the murders. Nichols states the following. I was just about to get out of the bath when I heard the bell go. I almost jumped out of my skin. Since the murders, I'd been convinced the old Bill were going to be around at any time. When I opened up and saw it was Mally, this young gypsy bloke who I'd seen around town, it was a real relief. But not for long. Someone told me you were looking to buy a shotgun, he said. I've got one in my van. Well, this was tricky. You have to remember that at the time, every single newspaper, every magazine, every TV bulletin and radio broadcast is about these three local blokes who have been brutally murdered, blasted in their car by some bloke with a shotgun. And then you have to remember that up until this day, before that, I'd been asking everyone I know, I mean everyone, to get me a gun. I was really desperate for it. Now this is quite bizarre because just a few pages before that in the book Blogs 19, Darren Nichols basically states that Michael Steele asked him to get a gun after the trip to Holland. He said he asked a few people, he asked someone that he worked with, he didn't get much joy. And then all of a sudden, basically the phone calls from Michael Steele stopped, so he didn't even ask anybody else. That's how he's put it across. Yet then we look a few pages in front of that and we have this description of, I asked everybody I knew, everybody, I mean everyone. I was really desperate for it. I really needed a gun. Who actually needed the gun? Is it Nichols or is it Michael Steele? It's very, very odd. Very, very strange. Now moving back to the question in hand again regarding the whole setup, the whole plan. Does it actually make any sense whatsoever if you were to plan a triple murder? Now let's just flip this on its head for one moment. Let's say that Steele didn't actually kill Tucker Tate and Rolfe, but he either facilitated the lure to get Tucker Tate and Rolfe to the bottom of Workhouse Lane, or at least had some knowledge that they were about to be killed on the evening of December the 6th. Does that change the possibility of what we've already spoken about here? Again, I still find it incredibly difficult to believe. If you're involving yourself at the heart of this deal, you're the person who's putting this deal towards Tucker Tate and Rolfe, saying basically, look, I'm bringing this stuff over, you can take it, get some weaponry, stick us up, take the gear away and we'll split it 3 ways. If you're inserting yourself into the heart of that deal, then there's every possibility that other individuals outside of that circle are going to know about it, i.e. girlfriends, those closest to them, close friends, family members. I mean, they've already booked a pre-celebration meal, for God's sake, at a restaurant. They've been telling everybody that they're coming into money. I just cannot see in any way, shape or form how anybody would think that this is a good plan to execute 3 individuals. Whether they're well known, whether they're disliked, whatever. You just wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be waving a red flag in the air and saying, whoa, look, Tucker Tate and Rolfe are meeting me down the bottom of Workhouse Lane. They're going to meet Mickey Steele. Would you really do that? Because when they don't answer their phone at 7 o'clock or 7 o'clock onwards on December the 6th, and the next morning their bodies are found shot in a Range Rover, the obvious questions are, where were they going that night? Who were they going to meet? Oh, they're going to meet Michael Steele to look at an airstrip. There's something not right about this. There's just something not right about this at all. Now, could I be wrong? Could I be wrong here? Could someone have come up with this idea and thinking, actually, this needs to be done quickly. We need rid of these individuals. What is the best way? What is the best way that we can guarantee that we can get them to the bottom of Workhouse Lane and execute these individuals? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there were so many oversights. This had to be done quickly. It had to be carried out ASAP. But the location, the whole choice of the location, let alone anything else, regardless of how the crime was committed, the choice of location tells me that a lot of thought and planning went into the execution of these individuals. But what counts against this being an absolute rush job at the 11th hour is the fact that Michael Steele apparently approaches Pat Tate with the very idea concerning this deal back in November. So this isn't some desperate necessity to murder these individuals at the earliest opportunity. So that doesn't make any sense, does it? Everything tells us, when we look at this case from an objective perspective, that this was very well thought out. Quite a long time in the planning, I would suggest. The fact that we had the gun club nearby. The fact that they were lured down there shortly before 7 p.m. on a Wednesday, when that shooting club would have normally been active up until around 6 p.m. The gunshots, the murder of Tucker Tate and Rolfe would have blended in with the everyday comings and goings of that local area on a Wednesday evening. The very fact that the cartridges used to kill Tucker Tate and Rolfe are incredibly popular with clay pigeon shooters, the very same sport which happens to be offered at White House Farm. So much time and thought has gone into this murder. We have no DNA evidence, no fingerprint evidence, no footprints leaving the crime scene, no eyewitnesses to these murders. Yet we're supposed to believe that we have all of this information, and that somehow coincides with such a shoddy job at planning the execution in the first place. It makes absolutely no logical sense whatsoever. Would you really kill 3 individuals, openly tell them where you need to meet that night, where you're going, the purpose for your trip that evening, and not expect either of those individuals to tell anybody where they're going, who they may be meeting just before 7 o'clock, the last person who sees them alive? Just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So do let me know in the comments section below the way that this crime was committed, how clean, concise, precise, fast and efficient this murder was carried out. Does that actually match up with the events surrounding the murders, the actual lure to the lane? Do those two meet somewhere? Is it the fact that, as I said earlier, Michael Steele had some level of involvement in getting Tucker Tate and Rolfe down to the bottom of Workhouse Lane? Or were there many oversights which actually took place during the planning process and the subsequent murders of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe? Do let me know your own thoughts and theories in the comment section below. And as always, many thanks for joining me for this particular video. Very shortly in front of you, you'll be able to see some other videos from the channel, including the Essex Boys case playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next video. Take care. Cheers.